So no issue with Panuku selling off surplus council property. I have a real problem with Panuku selling off publicly owned reserves. And I have to say, with all due respect, I don't see real evidence that this proposal has come about through an objective, strategic assessment of what land, public open space is needed in growing Auckland and what is not. What I understand in reality, the true story is that a developer has approached someone in the council or Panuku about this, and this is in response to an initiative from a developer who stands to benefit from this selling of a public reserve. That really...
Order, Mr Chair.
Order.
I think that's completely opposite to what the officer has told us as to any approach by the private sector.
Councillor Brewer, I don't think it's a point of order. It's a matter for debate. And you've said you're going to have a...
Well, it's a misrepresentation of what the officer said.
So it's not a misrepresentation.
Well, it's complete misrepresentation.
Councillor Lee...
I'm absolutely convinced that Mrs Hawker is an honest person and is telling the truth. Anyway, we'll leave it at that. But what I'm concerned about, Mr Chairman, is when Auckland, in the 1920s, when this subdivision was approved by the Auckland City Council at the time, when the population was about 150,000 people, the subdivision went with the obligation to create a reserve, and in those days when you planted things in reserves they were called plantation reserve. Under the Reserves Act that name does not exist. It's a local purposes reserve legally. The point is, in the 1920s when developers sought permission from the council to make money from property development, they were required to put back a public reserve. This is a situation where we are selling a public reserve essentially to a developer that I believe is untenable. It is unfair to the neighbours, and also we are missing out on opportunities to use that land for better purposes in terms of connectivity. In fact, the developer wants to thwart that very process for the developer's own interest, and therefore, in terms of precedent, in terms of what I believe is morally right, the land is owned by the people of Auckland, and what is right for most of the neighbours, I strongly oppose this. It is a thoroughly bad precedent. Once you let Panuku loose on our public reserves, this will just be the start. This will create a precedent, the thin edge of the wedge, and what we're doing here, rather than taking a top-down reassessment of our reserves and holdings and what would be needed for quality of life into the 21st century in a growing Auckland, we are doing this in a piecemeal, ad hoc way with not getting the full story. So I oppose it strongly.
Thank you.
Mr Chair, if I could just make a point regarding the proceeds of sale.
Now.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry. Do you wish to speak, Councillor? No? Okay, well, yeah, you're the next.
Thank you.
Because Councillor Brewer says he wants to finish this. Do you wish to speak to?
Just shortly.
No. Well, Councillor Darby.
Oh, sorry. Certainly, thank you.
Thanks, Chair. So, look, I don't support this, members, and I've had some correspondence on this in the last few days. And there's, and I appreciate Councillor Clo's righteous sermon on what I should be doing. But I would like to stress to people we did not issue an ultimatum to Panuku, and I acknowledge Letitia's work, respect her, all the staff I respect. But we did not issue no holds barred ultimatum to just come and cough up reserves. We didn't. It needs to be tested here. And my questions are a test and other questions are a test. We did not just say, thank you for the report, tick, goodbye, and revocation disposal. I would hope that we do not fall into that area of low engagement here in this chamber, as was suggested. We did not issue a blanket, go get it, go sell it, to Panuku at all. And we're hearing that there are commercial approaches on this. And there's some questions about which came first. There is definitely here. And we have seen another one that we voted down, you will recall, up in Forest Hill, where it was a commercial approach. It wasn't really on the list, but to be fair to Panuku, they brought it and alerted us to that the commercial approach came first. And we rejected that one for the quite similar reasons to why I would object. I am objecting to this, is the potential of this reserve. The Ōrākei Local Board, they have supported revocation and disposal, but there are some questions about the residents here, not a well-known residents group not being consulted. Now, I've had it in emails yesterday that they were not consulted. Now, we heeded those residents group when they came in on the unitary plan. We heard them, and today possibly we are not going to hear them. So we heard them on multiple parcels of land, and on 2 parcels we are, some of us may be resisting hearing them. We have also heard that local residents were engaged with, but it was a very narrow band. So I'm also interested in this so-called plantation reserve. It's a very well-treed reserve, and it's maybe not a place to go and kick a ball, but of course we don't have reserves in the local purpose category just to be able to kick a ball or put a playground in. We know that through government changes that the tree rules, our tree rules, have had to change, and we are seeing a depletion of tree canopies all over Auckland. It's plantation reserve in someone's name, but it is a heavily treed, canopied reserve that is holding an ecology which will be at risk. We know that. We know that the tree canopies right across Auckland are being plundered now. And contrary to what Councillor Close said, the iwi did not recommend disposal. Nowhere will you see in the iwi summary here, the iwi feedback, did they support disposal. No such words whatsoever. That feedback is very limited, and most of the iwi are looking at that from the point of view, is there a responsibility of the council, or is this possibly Crown land, or has it got a history whereby it belonged to the Crown, whereby it should be considered as a first right of refusal for cultural or commercial redress. So I look at also the easement and gross, and I know what that easement could be. An easement and gross is for a specific user, that's the council, and a specific purpose, which is to access the stormwater pond. But that easement in gross could be the foundation for further negotiations to get an easement of public access linking through to these 2 parcels and up to Nile. That sort of thing has to be explored. A bit of intelligence, please. And I haven't seen this. No criticism of you, Letitia. It's others that needed to do that work. I think there's a long way to go on this, and I don't recommend that we support the revocation, let alone the disposal, here today.
Thank you. Letitia, there's been questions raised in relation to the process from now on, and the issue in relation to consultation. Now, you indicated that there was adjoining property owners, but it's going to be put out into the public arena through the public notice. Yes. So will organisations like the Local Residents and Ratepayers Association and other groups be able to put input into that consultation?
Yes, they will, and we haven't been able to do that yet because council hasn't formed a view yet.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're waiting for that.
Right, the next speaker is Councillor Cooper.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for your report. I guess when we're looking at these local parks, for me, if the local board have actually tested it and looked at it and gone over that, I think our decision is really around the direction that we've given Panuku to go away and find $40 million a year before 2016, end of 2016, and a wider responsibility to ratepayers, because this money directly takes some of those costs off ratepayers. And I think that's one of the ways. We know we can't keep putting the rates up and up and up. We've got to find other ways to fund what we do. So I think this is part of that, and if the local board are happy, I think I find it somewhat interesting to hear that we've got low engagement. The rest of the people around the table, other than Councillor Darby, have got low engagement. But I've certainly read the report and I'm satisfied with the answers you've given. So I do support this. And at the end of the day, a lot of the people that are saying we shouldn't do this are the very ones that are saying we've got to have more houses in Auckland, and we absolutely do. And I don't really see that we're going to be building a lot of houses on this, but there, if there's that possibility that that large section can do that and provide more homes, well and good. So I do support it in line with the decision Council made to direct Panuku to go out and look and find appropriate pieces of land to sell. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Right. Councillor Brewer.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair, for offering to give me the closing speech on this. The biggest criticism that I often hear around this table about the Ōrākei local board is that they never want to sell land, that they want to have their cake and eat it too. And look, just to summarise, the Ōrākei local board supports the revocation and the disposal of this land. They've had a workshop on it, and one of the things that came out was not that the property provides little public benefit, but that it has become de facto rubbish tip to a certain extent. It does not, the Hill Crescent does not provide, as we've heard from Letitia, public thoroughfare access, as it has private property at the rear and an easement at the front, as we've heard, for council works access only, not public access. The Sports, Parks and Rec Department, as we've seen in our report, and it has been confirmed, has reviewed it and has found that it has no strategic benefit. So I appreciate that we've got that proviso there about confirmation that it's not part of the Greenways project, and I hope that the committee gets a report back on that. But we also have heard what iwi think, what the Heritage Department have thought, what the Stormwater Department have thought. This is price prohibitive, and following up from what Councillor Clow was saying, the cost of making this land useful, or even in part, Councillor Walker, is beyond the local board and is not part of the parks plan, strategic vision. It would require, as Letitia has articulated, not only a walkway but a bridge to be constructed, and the adjacent land would need to be purchased to make it to enable public access. So another thing that we need to remind ourselves of is that the Savage Memorial Park is 2 blocks away. If you do any desktop review of this, that Medill's Farm is 3 to 4 blocks away, that Mission Bay Beach is 2 blocks away, that Keeper Bush is not far away. And so I suppose my conclusion is that often in the last few years, starting with ACPL and now Panuku, this divestments project process, is that many of us have tried to follow the lead from the local board and represent and hear them, because they know the area better than anyone, and they know the issues at hand. And so I suppose on this occasion I ask you again to support the local board on this proposed renovation and disposal.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the motion now be
No,
put.
well,
That's a procedural motion.
that was the final speech.
I saw a few hands go up.
Well, I think it was understood.
I think that was support, wasn't it?
That was going to be the final speech. So, with that, I'll put the motion. Those in sorry?
Division, please.
By division.
Are you putting them separately, Mr. Chairman?
No, they're both together.
Can you put them separately?
No, they're both together.
Can I see it?
Mr. Chairman, a point of clarification, Mr. Chairman. I know the vote is underway. I'm very interested to know whether you are going to, how you're going to put them, because I'm looking for that information from Mr. Kimpton. So if you could give us some guidance, it would be helpful.